miles, and gentlemen, you must look after those engines. It's the Australian Grand Prix with Martin Brundle and James Allen.
Thank you very much indeed, Jim. Hello everybody and welcome to a new Formula One World Championship in the beautiful city of Melbourne, Australia. Cloudy slightly, but sunny as well. We've had a lot of rain this weekend and it's given us an extremely unpredictable race so far. This is the 10th time that this beautiful Albert Park venue has hosted the Australian Grand Prix. First Grand Prix back in 1996, remember? Jacques Villeneuve on pole, Martin Brundle rolling at 180 miles an hour down into turn 3. What memories we have from this wonderful place. Well, the weather certainly played havoc with the new qualifying system yesterday, with the effect that the reigning world champion, as Jim was just saying, Michael Schumacher, is 19th on the grid. And the pre-race favourites, McLaren, in the form of Kimi Raikkonen and Juan Montoya, are 9th and 10th on the grid. Giancarlo Fisichella, well, we've been hearing he has a virtual open goal today, but he's still got to deliver 58 laps of this 3.29 mile circuit. A lot of people to lap. The slower cars are a lot slower relative to the front runners this year, so there's an awful lot of trip hazards for Fisichella between him and his second career Grand Prix victory, but he is on pole and he's certainly looking very good. Alongside him, Toyota's best ever grid position, Jarno Trulli, making it the first all-Italian front row since 1984. And David Coulthard, we just saw there, is also well placed on the grid as well. 5th in his first run for Red Bull Racing, but there's a man with a lot of local expectation on his shoulders. Mark Webber starting 3rd on the grid today, and really he got 5th place here, his best finish so far 3 years ago, remember, in the Minardi, and now he is leading the Williams BMW team. So there, a look at the grid, very topsy-turvy as you can see. Villeneuve on the outside of row 2, Coulthard and Klein making it an all Red Bull Racing 3rd row. Nick Heidfeld, teammate to Webber, he's 7th on his debut for the team. Jenson Button, not quite on form this weekend, but watch out for Montoya and Raikkonen. We're really expecting those two very fast cars to come through the field. McLaren have got it right in 2005. They've been the pace setters in testing. The car looks beautiful here at Albert Park. Really, it was only the weather that caught them out and pushed them down the grid. Same story really for Rubens Barrichello in 11th. Narain Karthikeyan, the Indian driver on his debut with Jordan Toyota, is a fantastic 12th. And watch out for Alonso, a little bit further back, Michael Schumacher coming through the field. You see penalty against his name at Sato's. They've both changed engines before the second qualifying session. Well, Martin, we had a fairly big lottery in qualifying yesterday, and today's race I think is wide open, isn't it?
Unquestionably. I'm somewhat surprised and a little bit confused really over this tyre issue. I've spent the last hour rooting around with my old mates in the paddock trying to scoop up what's going on, because I think there was a change, wasn't there, this morning, in terms of if a car has a big lurid high-speed spin, I'm told they can now change a set of tyres without penalty. And if they've got a heavily worn tyre, and I'm talking one tyre, not one set, then they can also change that without penalties. My understanding, as long as it's not at the same time as refueling, but only certain people seem to know and agree with that. It's a rather a subjective situation at the moment.
Yeah, we should perhaps explain the new rules for 2005 mean you have to carry the same set of tyres through both qualifying sessions on Saturday, Sunday morning, and then again to the end of the Grand Prix. And we're used to seeing 2 or 3 tyre changes a race. Now these tyres have got to last over 250 miles. And certainly this morning there appears to have been a team managers meeting. I was told about it by one of the team technical directors, at which it was decided if you had really severe wear and it meant the car was going to have to retire from the Grand Prix and we're going to lose a car, then you could change one tyre. Martin, the left front tyre is the one that takes the real hammering here at Albert Park, so my understanding is that is the case. We were briefed by race director Charlie Whiting on Thursday to the effect that if you had to change a tyre for any other reason than it was punctured, you'd get a 1-minute drive-through penalty. So we will see as the race unfolds, if anybody takes advantage of that situation, how it unfolds. But at the moment, we're ready to go on the formation lap.
Yes, that's a 1-minute stop and go. So that includes plus navigating down the pit lane. They'll have to switch the engine off, otherwise it'll boil itself in that 1 minute where they're stationary in front of their pit. So that obviously is a massive penalty. But they're going to have to find out where the track is at. It's an unknown. There's so much less rubber down than normal because it's been raining, because it's wall-to-wall action on this racetrack with all sorts of formula, with hard racing tyres or even road tyres. Plus, of course, now they're having to get through the entire Grand Prix on one set of tyres. As you stated earlier on, James, they're doing less laps on the track anyway as Formula 1 cars, and they're putting far less rubber down. So I think the drivers are going to have to really adapt themselves around their handling and their car in the early stages of Grand Prix. It's no good getting on the radio and bitching to the team.
Saw Michael Schumacher there at the tail of the field. An unaccustomed place for him, although towards the end of last year he did get himself out of position a couple of times, but by then the championship was won. So this is our first look then at the Albert Park circuit for this year. It's not changed at all really from last year to this. And as you can see, corporate boxes and grandstands all the way around the circuit. I took a wander around during practice on Friday, and really you do have some fantastic spectator positions. They can almost reach out and touch the cars in certain places. The entry to the fast chicane, turns 10 and 11, is extraordinary. The corporate box is right above them.
Left the grid. Now a slow lap, save fuel, warm up the brakes and set your brake balance.
A little bit of information there. Getting heat into the tyres is definitely going to be a big issue here this afternoon. This track, a bit of a point and squirt circuit, not any particularly fast or exciting corners. 16 turns in all. Top speed around about 185 miles an hour, and 5 big braking zones here. So braking is one of the key areas you've got to get on top of. And as we've heard from Jim and Tony and Mark in the studio, looking after these tyres over 58 laps is going to be pretty important.
Yes, and I think the brakes are right behind that, James. They didn't get the running yesterday on a dry track to fully sort out their brake cooling, some teams anyway, so that could be an issue in the second half of the race. We've seen, remember when Frentzen was leading this Grand Prix and he basically just burned all the way through his carbon fibre brake disc. So brakes, this is a heavy duty circuit. It's a high duty level for the engines and the brakes, and of course if you've got understeer you'll just be graining and ripping those front tyres. If you've got poor traction you'll be wearing the rear tyres out very quickly, even with traction control. Flavio must be standing there thinking, we can win this Grand Prix today, surely we've got it in our pockets.
Well, he certainly loves going up on the podium, doesn't he, when his drivers win the races. Remember Michael Schumacher back in the early 90s, how much Flavio enjoyed the attention. It was Hollywood down there at the Benetton team. This is the same team again now, Renault, just a different name. And once again, as in the mid-90s, they are very firmly amongst the front runners in Formula 1.
Now I think there's not so much of a racing line here at the moment, so either side of the grid is not a big advantage, not as big as normal anyway, when they've normally been charging down the left-hand side. Normally the left-hand side of the field here would be a big advantage. New regulations this year, if the drivers stall the engine, they'll just simply send the pack instead of delaying the start. They'll send the pack around for another formation lap, I should say.
Pat Simmons there on the right. He's the master tactician of the Renault team. Everyone forming up.
And that's exactly what's happened. Sorry to cut across you, James. We've got a driver down there.
Raikkonen, I think it's Raikkonen.
Raikkonen, his car will now be pushed into the field. The amber lights will come on, and the green lights now come on to send the pack. I hope they've read their regulations. Come on, guys, you should go now. This is another formation lap, and Raikkonen will be pushed into the pit lane, and he has to start from the pit lane. My understanding is they cannot start that car on the grid and let him go to the back of the field.
That's absolutely right. New rule for 2005. Raikkonen then will be pushed into the pit lane where the mechanics can work on the car, try and start it. They haven't got out to him yet. No one has got to him yet. Hopefully they'll be able to get out fairly quickly. It's been a terrible weekend for Kimi Raikkonen. He was ahead of Juan Montoya after first qualifying. There he is, but he made a mistake this morning and lost the place to Juan Montoya. So psychologically, that was 1-0 to Juan Montoya. Trying to put the car into neutral there.
Yeah, look, the trouble is he's got so little steering lock, he'll struggle to get through the gap, but there's a big N sign and it pushes and releases the clutch with a little canister. They've got it through there. Sam Michael with a wry grin on his face, I thought, there for a moment. But Raikkonen then, as you say, James, a critical error this morning in second qualifying, and McLaren seem to be snatching defeat from the jaws of potential victory here, but it's a long way to go this afternoon. They can just fire that car up though, and he can join from the back of the grid, from the pit lane, but he will not be disadvantaged. He will not lose a lap.
Well, it looks like he simply stalled it, I don't want to presume, but it's fired up again pretty easily. The mechanics there have managed to get it going without any trouble at all, and Raikkonen is now waiting at the exit of the pit lane. And so we've got two very fast cars coming through from the back, Michael Schumacher and Kimi Raikkonen as well. What an exciting prospect we have in store here.
Nice empty grid slot in front of young Kartikayan in the Jordan, which will help his progress. Let's hope he knows where to brake when he gets there. And I don't say that jokingly. It is such a difficult decision to decide where you're going to brake. Brake too early, you'll just be smashed into the back of. Brake too late, and you'll rip your front wing off or fly through the air, as we saw with Ralf Schumacher.
I have to say I like this new system. It's good. You get the race started. There's no reason to go through the 5-minute procedure again if you can simply push a car off the grid into the pit lane. And Raikkonen sitting there with his engine running, and I would be a little concerned. He's been sitting there for quite a long time, isn't he? That car's going to start getting very hot.
Well, it's a minute 30 when you're on it, and I think they're just switching it off now, and that's the only thing they can do. Otherwise, he'll boil all the water out of that. So it's a good 2.25 minutes, maybe even 2.5 minutes as a formation lap. But I tell you what, it doesn't help any of the other drivers either, James. Of course, these cars are cooled by the air being forced through the side pods. There are no fans. There's no normal cooling system that you get on a road car, and so they're all going to be getting towards the top end of the scale for engine temperature.
So Montoya really has got the upper hand in the McLaren team here this weekend. He will want to get a good result to really put one over his teammate Raikkonen. Rubens Barrichello in the middle of the pack. There's Alonso swirling the back of that Renault. Toyota of Ralf Schumacher as well. Flavio showing the tension on his face. There's Antonio Pizzonia, who missed out on the second Williams drive to Nick Heidfeld. Very disappointed, and I'm sure feeling very idle this afternoon with the other men racing. Christian Horner, new boss of Red Bull Racing. Very exciting young sporting director. He's really going places. Hopefully we can get this Grand Prix underway then. Everybody is formed up. These cars will go from 0 to 125 miles an hour in 5 seconds. They are awesome machines. And the 2005 Formula 1 World Championship is go! Great start by Fisichella from pole. Webber goes to the middle. Trulli looks defensive. David Coulthard's done well. He's up into 4th. He's having a look at Webber. He's up into 3rd. Cracking start by David Coulthard.
Coulthard had to take the place because he was so deep into the corner. He had to make the overtake, but it worked a treat. As you say, up into 3rd for him. Fisichella leads then comfortably from Trulli. David Coulthard, what a dream debut for Red Bull Racing. And then it's Webber, and it seems like Heidfeld's had a stunning start as well.
You can see Rubens Barrichello in the middle of the pack as they all stream through, but Jordan's well in there as well. Fisichella putting a bit of a gap between himself and Jarno Trulli. Webber then down into 4th place. Heidfeld's had a good start, hasn't he? And this is the pack. This is where all the action is. Jenson Button's in the middle of that. So's Fernando Alonso. Well, Button started in front of Alonso, so Alonso's had a really good start. Fisichella leading.
Well, Button is down 3, Alonso is up 3, and that's what's going on there. So a poor first few sectors for Jenson Button. This is Michael Schumacher, who's up to P16.
Fisichella leads, Trulli 2nd, Coulthard 3rd, Webber 4th, 5th is Heidfeld, 6th Klein, 7th Montoya, 8th Barrichello. Down to 9th place is Jacques Villeneuve, 10th is Alonso, 11th Button.
High, therefore not a particularly big braking zone. The clear one is down at turn 3, of course. So Fisichella leads from Trulli. David Coulthard out nicely on his own in 3rd. Webber holding station 4th. Heidfeld with that great start up to 5th. Klein then in the second Red Bull is 6th. Then Montoya, Barrichello, Villeneuve and Alonso.
Fastest lap on lap 2 to Jarno Trulli, 1:29.9. We're expecting the lap times to drop as we go along, but remember they can't change tyres, and well, the tyres are going to start wearing out. Formerly, Grand Prix races were largely decided at the start, a little bit of strategy as well, the occasional overtaking move, but the new system is designed for the end of the races to be the bit where things get decided. You've got to make sure your car still has plenty of go in it with 15 laps to go. That's going to be crucial.
Yes, even on a fast racetrack. I'll come back to that point in a minute. We'll just see a replay of the start. Perfect then for Fisichella down the outside. Truly struggling a bit. Coulthard got off the line beautifully and locked the front wheel and really just had to carry on the move past Mark Webber, who saw him coming. It was nice and clean when it happened, but good stuff there. Michael Schumacher already feeding his way through. We're on board with Villeneuve, and there is the fast starting Coulthard, and he then has to take almost avoiding action look to take, that's just instinctive stuff. Good stuff there from Coulthard up into 3rd, and Villeneuve just losing out then to, that's how Heidfeld made the big advantage. This is a camera angle from the curb through that first corner.
So at the end of lap 2, Giancarlo Fisichella leads Jarno Trulli by 1.4 seconds. Coulthard is 3rd. Webber still behind him. They're 4 seconds behind the race leader. There is Mark Webber, you can see. Behind him, Heidfeld in 5th. 6th, Klein. 7th, Montoya 8th, Barrichello, good start for him, up 3 places. Villeneuve down to 9th, 10th, Alonso on lap 4 of 58.
Coulthard beginning to come under pressure from Mark Webber. My understanding is that Williams are on the softer of the Michelin tyres, Coulthard's on the harder tyre, which may pay dividends later on in the race. We'll have to wait and see if they get graining or excessive wear. But at the moment, it's Webber with the fastest package, and teammate Heidfeld, really hanging on nicely.
Grand Prix. Certainly difficult to draw too many conclusions from the winter testing, but it looks as though Williams haven't really got the super special pace that everyone was hoping they would have. Now the team, led by Technical Director Sam Michael, assure us there's some very exciting things coming out of the wind tunnel to help this car, to help it find some more aerodynamic downforce, some exciting things coming on the chassis. But at the moment, the car of Mark Webber doesn't really have the super pace of a Renault or a McLaren.
You've got to give some credit to the Jaguar, the ex-Jaguar team, who really created that car that the team morphed into Red Bull Racing. But it's not too shabby, is it? That's a top 10 car, it seems, on forgetting oddball qualifying sessions with strange weather. That Red Bull Racing car is a fast car.
Well, it's certainly there on merit at the moment. David Coulthard's lap times, mid 1 minute 29s. He's a second a lap slower than the race leaders, but he's certainly on the pace of other people in the midfield, and obviously Barrichello, Alonso, the fast men, Button, Michael Schumacher, all trying to make their way through the pack. So they've got cars in front of them. There's some terrific scraps going on, particularly behind Villeneuve. Alonso, Button, Ralf Schumacher, all together there.
The point I started to make before we cut to a replay of the start, and that's interesting. Montoya's only really just hanging on to the lead pack, but Alonso, grid position is everything, even on an open racetrack like this. Alonso is 13.6 seconds and tapped up behind Villeneuve. He's 10th. He's 13.6 behind his teammate and leader, Fisichella. That's just how much time you lose in the traffic.
Absolutely right. It seems there's 1 or 2 people out there just minding their cars at the moment. Montoya is a second behind Christian Klein, but he's lapping 3 or 4 tenths a lap slower than him. He seems quite comfortable in 7th place, Montoya. He's obviously looking at the long game here. Here's Webber. He's getting much closer now to the back of David Coulthard. Well, we hear from the Cosworth engine people who supply Red Bull Racing that they've got an extra 70 or 80 horsepower compared to the engine in the Jaguar at the end of last season. That's a tremendous gain, considering that these engines now have to last 2 whole Grand Prix weekends. And that's certainly part of the reason that this package is more competitive. They've also just signed a new chief designer, Mark Smith, who was one of the guys responsible for Renault over the last few years. So, well, this team certainly got high ambitions with the Red Bull company behind them, and plenty of money in the bank. Certainly Christian Horner and Gunther Steiner, the top men there, aiming to push this team forwards. And well, they're loving having David Coulthard there, all that experience and that calmness, and certainly Coulthard leading this team from the front.
Struggling a bit at the moment, though. He is in 3rd place, but he's sort of mid-29s, and everybody around him in the low 1 minute 29s. He looks very steady under braking. So I know he had a bit of a brake pedal issue in practice, so maybe he's just being as calm as he can, especially with a heavy fuel load on board. But Webber,
too much of an impression on Sato at the moment. This is up the front though, battle for 3rd place. Coulthard, Webber, Heidfeld, Klein doing a great job, getting a second chance with the team. Made his debut last year with Jaguar. Not massively impressive season, but because he's Austrian and because the owner of the team likes him, he's got a second chance, and he's certainly taking advantage of that in this first Grand Prix of the season. Lap 7 then, Fisichella, almost 2 seconds now clear of Trulli. Coulthard being dropped, 6.4 behind the race leader. Webber, 7 seconds. 5th place is Heidfeld, nearly 8 seconds behind the leader. And then it's Klein, Montoya in 7th, Barrichello in the final points position in 8th at the moment. 10 seconds behind race leader Fisichella.
a better lap for Coulthard that time. He actually took 3 or 4 tenths out of the pursuing Williams and his teammate, so maybe he's found a better way in the braking zones. And this clearly then Alonso still tucked up behind Villeneuve, now 16 seconds adrift. How frustrating is that? Jacques, you'd have to say, I don't think he's really got on top of this 2005 package of Formula One regulations yet. Having said that, he's ahead of his teammate. Massa started at the back, of course.
Yes, it's extraordinary how much the weather intervening yesterday, the wet, dry session we had in qualifying, totally threw everything upside down. Really, the only person who got a proper dry lap was Fisichella, and he took advantage beautifully. But poor old Felipe Massa, who's been going quite well in the Sauber, certainly better than Jacques Villeneuve, he was out on dry tyres, and just as it started to tip with rain, You can see Alonso now right up behind Villeneuve having a go, and down he does it on braking. Nice move by Fernando Alonso.
What a beautiful piece of overtaking, absolutely superb, but Villeneuve came back up the inside of him and retook the position. That was supremely skillful and brave there from Alonso, but he just went in a touch too deep at the final hurdle, and the wiser head of Villeneuve still has his car in front. Alonso will be so frustrated.
Very good exit that's...
But they're now 19 seconds behind the leader. But look, Michael Schumacher, Kimi Raikkonen, 24 and 25 seconds away from the leader. That's nearly a pit stop, James. And under these new regulations, I don't think you're going to be seeing so many phases of a Grand Prix. Clearly, they're not going to come in, put a new set of boots on and find a much better balance. I think it's going to be much more set in for the afternoon.
Well, the pace certainly a lot slower at this stage than it was 12 months ago. Part of the reason for that is we've had a lot of rain, so the track isn't quite as much rubbered in, but part of the reason is also this new rules package designed to slow the cars down, cutting the aerodynamic downforce by as much as 25%. And certainly, judging by the pace at the moment, it seems to have worked. I think probably some of the cars are carrying a bit more fuel than they did at this stage last year, but nevertheless, lap times at the moment about 3 seconds a lap slower than they were at this stage of last year's Grand Prix. And Martin, look at those black clouds.
Yeah, they look nearly as bad out of the window too. They certainly look very dark on the TV there, but Ted.
They do look very black, and they're coming this way, but a quick update from VAR. Jensen's engineers are willing him to stay with this fight with Fernando Alonso. If Jensen could just stay in touch with Alonso, but that gap is growing at the moment, he can follow him through this traffic, try to get up there, but all calm down here at VAR.
I was really interested to hear Aloise's interview with Jensen, because all he talked about was who was behind him. And obviously his mindset was, I'm defending today, I'm not attacking. That BAR is not right yet.
No, certainly isn't. So the battle continues between Alonso and Jacques Villeneuve. That's the scrap for 9th place at the moment on lap 9. Leading the way is Giancarlo Fisichella. Jarno Trulli in the Toyota is in 2nd place. We're looking at Alonso being repassed there by Jacques Villeneuve from a few minutes ago. David Coulthard is W. Williams, of Nick Heidfeld is 5th. Klian is still 6th for Red Bull Racing. 7th for McLaren of Juan Montoya, just over a second behind Klian. And then it's Barrichello 8th for Ferrari. 9th is Villeneuve, and 10th Fernando Alonso. This is the scrap we've been following for a few laps now, and we saw Fernando Alonso, Martin, just knock a little piece of his aerodynamics off. I'm not quite sure it was a bit of a barge board or a bit of under tray, but it certainly slowed him down a bit. Yeah,
I think it will be part of the barge board and possibly even a piece of the tongue, the under tray. And what will happen is the car will start to slide, a bit more understeer, I suspect. Therefore, your tyres will wear out. It's a higher penalty these days with this one tyre for the Grand Prix situation. But I'm beginning to wonder if Schumacher, Raikkonen and Montoya are on a one-stopper, because they're nowhere. They're also Rans in this race. Michael Schumacher in 15th and Raikkonen in the 16th in the 1 minute 29s. The leaders in the 1 minute 27s. And I just don't understand where this pace is. And Montoya kind of coasting around P7, cannot make any impression on Klian at this stage, although he's on his fastest lap at the moment of the race. Maybe Montoya's just picking up his pace now, but so far, pretty lackluster.
Well, let's try and put that into some sort of perspective for you, shall we? With 58 laps of this Grand Prix, if you were on a one-stop strategy, you'd be looking to make your pit stop around about lap 26. Most of these cars have a fuel tank that's around 85 to 90 kilos as the maximum amount of fuel that they can carry. And, well, that would get you to the sort of mid-20s, that kind of thing. If you're on a two-stop strategy, you'd be likely to stop sometime around lap 14 to 16, which is in just a few laps' time. And if you were going to three-stop, well, you'd probably be coming in very shortly indeed. So we'll see what everybody's doing.
Yes, showing 57 at the top, of course, because of the extra formation lap. So, whatever, Alonso is still fast enough, whatever bits and pieces he's got missing, to start to keep challenging Villeneuve. But Ted has some news on Alonso's car.
Yeah, the Renault engineers say that it's the piece of the lower left front barge board. Just to explain, that's a little piece of carbon fibre that tidies up the airflow round the side of the side pods and underneath the car. But they're not at all worried about it.
Yes, this will be surprising some people. Definitely will be surprising a few people. Michael Schumacher update for you. He's down in 14th place, still behind Sato as Webber dives into the pits. The first of the the second Williams to make his stop then. And Michael Schumacher is 44 seconds behind the race leader, and looks like the Red Bull team are ready with a front wing. Now, we saw Coulthard clouting the back of a Minardi earlier. I wonder if that's for him.
Coulthard does the fastest lap of the race, takes 9/10 out of Fisichella's lead. The lead just 8.3 seconds now. So Coulthard, you'd suspect, is coming in anytime soon, wouldn't you? In that he's really stepping on the gas. He wants to keep that advantage over Mark Webber. Webber loses out to Alonso. Well, you've just got to assume the two McLarens and the two Ferraris are going an awful long way before they pit stop.
One of the reasons that Webber lost out to Alonso in that stop is because Alonso just set the fastest lap of the Grand Prix so far. He pushed very hard to make sure that he was in front of Webber when he came out from that stop. That's very fast driving, good driving from Fernando Alonso. Takuma Sato, that's great news for Michael Schumacher.
First gear on the way out.
Jock Clear there talking to Sato, first gear on the way out, he said. And Sato pitting is terrific news for Michael Schumacher. That will release him now.
Klein has pitted in the Red Bull race, second Red Bull Racing, and Alonso is
very different story this season, but looks like Ferrari getting ready for one of the two cars. It's Rubens Barrichello, the race leader, pitting on lap 25. Here he comes. Let's see if they change the tyre pressures. Lap 26 of the Australian Grand Prix. Both Rubens Barrichello, who was leading the race, and Fernando Alonso, who was behind him, have pitted. Here you can see where Alonso is feeding back into the field. That's the Toyota of Jarno Trulli, who was 7th. They very close to each other into turn 1. As into the pits comes 12th place man Kimi Raikkonen, having a bit of a nightmare today.
So they're one stopping. The Toyota did just make it through. Alonso then's going to be tucked up behind somebody else. Klein in there too, in what was 8th place. But of course the problem is, James, yes, they're one stopping. They've got one less stop to make this. But Michael and Kimi are so far behind. Now they've got a really fat car to carry all the way to the end of the Grand Prix. And they'll have to keep an eye on tyre wear and brake wear as well, because that accelerates when you carry another 20-30 kilos of fuel. And is this Michael Schumacher having a look at Webber? It is indeed. Or was he taking a rip-off the visor or whatever? But I think that'll be seriously affecting the engine temperatures too on Raikkonen's car. They'll be watching that closely on the data acquisition. They can see that here at the racetrack. They can see it back at the factory in Woking. They know exactly how his temperatures are going, and they'll keep an eye on it.
We have got a car off at turn 13, which is car number 18 of Montero. I wonder whether Schumacher was acknowledging the yellow flag with his hand. It's possible, but either way, look at those tyres. They don't look too bad, do they? The left front, as I said before, is the one that will show the most wear. Jarno Trulli, first man then to make the second stop of the afternoon. And there is the reason why Montero is off track.
Yeah, and yeah, talking about the tyres, looking at them through free practice, they just look superb. They've really got the compounding right. Let's see what Michael Schumacher's time was, a 27.2, so he wasn't too shabby. Raikkonen's in the 128s now, but what's going on in the temperature department, and will they have to bring forward his next stop?
I wonder. Beautiful skyline of Melbourne, always in a battle with Sydney to who can outdo each other for events, and certainly the Australians. He crosses the line now. Giancarlo Fisichella wins the Australian Grand Prix for Renault, his second victory in his 142nd race. Fantastic.
Bravo. Well done, mate. Well done. Absolutely perfect race. Well done. Brilliant.
He's going to be taking our job soon. Spot on, wasn't it?
He's got a lot to say.
Okay, mate, just remember we need to keep an eye on the engine.
That was really good. I'm really happy. Thank you to all of you.
We'll slot an H into that happy one of these days, but it's lovely to hear him, isn't it? Coulthard did finish fourth, so Fisichella from Barrichello, Alonso, two Renaults in the top 3 then on the podium. Coulthard 4th, 2 Red Bull Racings in the points. Webber 5th, solid drive from him. Montoya hung on for 6th, and Raikkonen did not pass Klein for that 7th place. So 2 McLarens in the points, but not where we thought they'd be in 6th and 8th.
Absolutely not. Raikkonen starting from the pit lane, remember, having been pushed off the racetrack, stalling on the formation lap. Michael Schumacher not classified, only 3 cars not classified. Schumacher and Heidfeld collided with each other, and Christian Albers, we saw him retire earlier on in the Grand Prix. Well, Schumacher was looking for his 100th podium this afternoon with the Ferrari team. He hasn't got it. He's got 0 points on the board after the first race of the season. There's Flavio Briatore congratulating Pat Simmons, the tactical genius behind the Renault team. He's the man that makes the call on the tyres, sent Fisichella out on Saturday on dry tyres. That was really the platform for this victory.
Right, Button has pitted. He didn't cross the flag, I don't believe. That means he can have a penalty-free engine change, which will give him a fresh engine without a 10th-place penalty for Malaysia. Because he's out of the point-scoring positions, it's the common-sense thing to do. Apparently, if that becomes systematic, the FIA will look at that. But Button was down in 11th. He may as well just take a fresh engine. So did Sato in the other BAR Honda. And in fact, they're the only 2 to pull that stunt.
Well, there was a little confusion going into this Grand Prix about whether you'd be able to change a single tyre if you needed to. In the end, we didn't need to, no one needed to do that. So the first experiment with making a set of tyres last a whole Grand Prix distance looks like it's been a success. That was a reasonably entertaining Grand Prix, and we've got a very, very happy winner in Giancarlo Fisichella. Just look at the top 10 there. Trulli slipping down, having been second place for most of the early part of the Grand Prix. Webber will make the Australians happy with matching his best result in Formula 1. 5th place here on his BMW Williams debut. Button is shown classified 11th, but he's not a finisher in the sense that he didn't cross the line, so that's why they're going to try and put a new engine in. And you can see there, Villeneuve going backwards really from the start, and qualified 4th. And they're the rookies as well, Carter Cayen, Montero and Freisacker, all having been lapped, but well, Carter Cayen was 50 seconds up on his teammate Montero, who we saw having a few spins, so a good start to his Formula 1 career for the Indian Carter Cayen.
Yeah, I think he's done a solid job, and I think both Toyota and Minardi drivers have done extremely well to hang on to their machinery through the afternoon. Albers dropped out, it looked like a transmission failure. Only 2 other retirements, with Michael Schumacher and Nick Heidfeld, who tripped over each other down at turn 3. Beautiful drive from Giancarlo Fisichella, and obviously he was lucky yesterday with the weather. You can't say any more than that. I don't know how fast he could have gone. I think my driver of the day though is still Alonso, for keeping his head in the middle of all of that action and losing so much time behind Villeneuve to end up being just 6.7 seconds off the lead. But to be fair to Giancarlo, he wasn't really pushed, was he? Great pictures
at the end of a terrific race for Giancarlo Fisichella. What a memorable day for him. He won a Grand Prix in Brazil. He thought he'd won. Remember, he was in the Parc Fermé, tossing his helmet up in the air, thinking, I've won it. They declared Raikkonen the winner. He wasn't given the winner's trophy until a couple of weeks later. This time, he does get to go up on the top step of the podium. Only his 2nd career victory. But what an effort from Fernando Alonso. From 13th on the grid to finish 3rd this afternoon. Deservedly Martin Brundle's driver of the day. Team principal of Renault, Flavio Briatore, is talking now with Ted Kravitz.
Well, let's just grab a word with Flavio. Flavio, you're walking very slowly. Aren't you going up the podium?
I send Pazzino's in the podium. I believe he deserves many years with us. He's done always very, very good job. I think he deserves it.
So what about Giancarlo Fisichella? You picked him up from Sauber. He was a bargain, and now look what he's done for you.
I think so. It's good, no? So
it wasn't bad, Flavio.
Good volume.
What, volume?
Yeah.
And what about the car, the pace of the car this weekend? It's been pretty impressive.
I believe we have done everything perfect. Right qualify, right race, we controlled the race. I believe it was very good.
You think the championship's on the cards, Flav?
No, race by race, we need to relax. Well, let's see.
Well done, Flav.
This is an unusual racetrack, it has to be said. It's not typical of some of the tracks later on in terms of its layout and particular requirements, but they look like they've got the consistency, speed, and the drivers always had confidence, didn't they, through the weekend, whatever the conditions. Some pretty transient racetrack conditions too, but Coulthard just missing out on the podium. He's going to have a wry smile on his face, isn't he? Outperforming the 2 McLarens, and he was faster. It wasn't about wet qualifying, he was playing faster.
Sweet moment for him. And there is Fisichella. Well, I talked to some of the Renault engineers last year at the end of the season. What do you think it's going to be like next year? And they say, well, I think Fisichella will be surprised how fast Alonso is in races. And we think that Alonso will be surprised how fast Fisichella is on a single lap. These two drivers, very, very well matched. They're going to push each other hard, and they've clearly got a car under them that can contest this year's World Championship. We've not seen the best Ferrari have got yet. Their new car not due out until possibly Bahrain, possibly Spain, the 5th race in this championship. So Rubens Barrichello, that's a good start to his campaign, and it looks like this championship is going to be pretty interesting.
Yeah, and of course he's 8 points ahead of Michael Schumacher already. That only needs to unfold over the next couple of 3 races, and Michael will have to be playing the supporting role, which in fairness to Michael, he's always said he's prepared to do if that was the championship position.
Well, he has done it. He got out of the way of Irvine, didn't he, in 1999? Malaysian Grand Prix when Irvine was going for the title. But look at this, 2 young guys. Certainly Alonso is pretty young, still only 23 years of age. Fisichella 32, 9 years difference between them. But Fisichella always seems so young, doesn't he?
Yeah, I'm just looking through my stats. You forget he's 32 years old, don't you? Fisichella started, this was his 142nd Grand Prix start. Pat Simmons has been very loyal to that team. Was there when it was called Benetton, and of course some key people left. Rory Byrne, Ross Brawn went off to Ferrari. Pat stayed back and has stuck with it, and he'll be very, very satisfied to be up there today. And he was there, actually they were Tolman before too.
To hearing that anthem for Ferrari as the winning constructor. Nice to hear it for the driver. Now the French anthem for Renault. A wonderful moment in any driver's career. Steve Brax, the Premier of the state of Victoria, where Melbourne is, presents the winner's trophy to Giancarlo Fisichella, and Pat Simmons, who was Michael Schumacher's race engineer those championship winning seasons of 94 and 95 as Benetton. As Martin said, very loyal servant to the team. He gets the Constructors' Trophy from the boss of Foster's. There's Ron Walker, who's done a lot for this race here in Melbourne, presenting the second place prize to Barrichello, and that was a great drive by him today.
Yes, I wonder what Ron thought about the threat of Australia losing the right to hold international events that came out from the FIA yesterday. This was a good race. We didn't have those phasers, those electric sort of moments unfolding as the tyres would change, but it did build to a nice crescendo.
It certainly did. The first win for Giancarlo Fisichella came at Jordan in the Brazilian Grand Prix, and it owed an awful lot to luck. This one Well, I know something to luck as well, but it was in qualifying. In the race today, he's been absolutely perfect, and he thoroughly deserves it. The 2005 championship is off to a great start.
You bastard train.
Congratulations to the 3 podium finishers in the 2005 Foster's Australian Grand Prix. To Fernando Alonso, 3rd for Renault. To Rubens Barrichello, 2nd for Scuderia Ferrari Marlboro. And to Giancarlo Fisichella, winning a sensational race for Renault. Giancarlo, when you last won a race, you weren't really able to celebrate at the moment. This one was very different.
Yeah, it's completely different. It's a great day for me. It's been a fantastic race. Honestly, I was quite conservative. I never push the limit. Just at the end, when Rubens was catching me, I drove a little bit faster, and I done a quick lap time. The car was great. It was a very good balance. The tire stays consistency from the beginning through the end. So we are in a really good shape. It's the best start of my career. And to win the first race of the season, it's great. I'm really, really happy. I like to say thank you to all the mechanics, to all the Renault team.
Well, you mentioned tyres. Obviously, many new regulations for this new season What were those last 20, 25 laps like when you weren't on new tyres and you were making those tyres last to the finish?
Honestly, because for the first part of the race, I was a bit conservative on the tyres. At the end, the car was still really, really good. In fact, in the last five or four laps, I did my best, my quickest time of the race. It was good. It was easy from the beginning to the end. I'm happy even because Fernando finished third, which is a great result for the team.
Absolutely. We heard you on the radio just before the first stop. You're talking a little bit about the balance, no change necessary. You mentioned something about the steering. We couldn't really hear it that clearly.
There was a little bit of understeering, but it's better to have a bit of understeering than oversteering during the race. So I spoke with my engineer and I told him, don't touch anything. I'm happy to carry on like that.
Well done. Rubens, a fantastic drive from you from the midfield, right up there, long fuel stops like Fernando, and a lot of pressure from him at the end, but a great drive up to second place.
No, I enjoy every second, and shows that Ferrari has no crisis. We are here, we're going to fight. We know that the teams have made a step up, but I want to really say congratulations to the team that put a good car together. It's only our still old car. The new car is going to come and give us even more pleasure. I'm really happy for the team. There's been a fantastic race, and the tires hold on very well. So I'm very proud of Bridgestone as well.
And a very busy race for you in terms of traffic.
Yes, absolutely. And there's new guys out there, and sometimes you have to give time for them to get the habit of Formula One, and sometimes they were in the middle, and you just. You cannot say much. It's really the first race, but apart from that, it was okay.
Thank you, Rubens. Fernando, 13th on the grid, held up really for 17 laps behind Villeneuve. We saw a little bit of bodywork coming off your car at one moment. You set fastest lap and you got up to third place, nearly catching Rubens on the line. A sensational day, underlining the supremacy of Renault.
Yeah, it has been a good weekend. I was always in the top three, even in wet conditions on Saturday. And for sure the 13th place on the grid was not my real position of the potential of the car this weekend. So I knew that I should go through the slow people very quick. But I found Jacques for 17 laps with a very good fight. But I lost nearly 25 seconds to the podium finish. But anyway, I was confident to recover this time, and thanks to the team, to the balance of the car, to the pit stops that were fantastic again from the guys, and also from I think we have to say thanks to Michelin. We did a good job, and to have this type of tire with this consistency throughout the race is something really, really fun for the drivers, and you can push in any lap of the race and set the fastest lap at the end.
And was the car affected in any way by going off the road when you did?
No. Well, I was 2 or 3 times in the grass because I knew that was important part of the race, these laps behind Jacques. And I was really pushing very hard with maximum fuel load that we start probably. And it was difficult to drive, but no, the car was every lap quicker and I enjoy all race.
Fantastic. Gingalo, turning back to you, obviously incredibly early days, but a dominant victory. How do you feel yourself in terms of 2005 and what you may be able to achieve this year?
I'm really confident for the rest of the season. I know we are just at the first race, but already we got a fantastic potential, and I felt that already the first time I drove that car. In January, end of January, already the first few laps, the car was quick. It was easy to drive it. So now we need just to working on it, carry on with the development, and try to win again.
Congratulations again.
Thank you.
Now, if we could have some words from you in your own languages, starting with Giancarlo.
Ben, non poteva iniziare meglio di così, sono contentissimo, è una grande giornata, ho fatto un grandissimo risultato, è stata una gara più semplice di quanto pensavo, ho potuto gestire dall'inizio alla fine, quando ho voluto gli ultimi 3-4 giri ho fatto un giro molto veloce, la macchina è stata fantastica dall'inizio alla fine, io ho fatto una gran gara senza nessun errore, stando sempre attento e per questo sono felicissimo e ringrazio tutto il team che ha fatto un lavoro eccezionale. Siamo alla portata dei migliori team, possiamo sicuramente battagliare per le prossime gare, bisogna soltanto cercare di sviluppare sempre di più la macchina, però ecco, non poteva iniziare meglio. Sono contentissimo e spero di ripetere queste occasioni.
Thank you. Rubens?
Ovviamente um grande resultado para a equipe Ferrari. Eu acho que é uma pena que o Michael não tenha acabado a corrida. A Bridgestone fez um trabalho excepcional em relação a todos os testes que nós realizamos. Então, para cá, nós temos o carro velho com o pneu desse ano, que nos dá uma condição muito grande de vitórias. Então, estou muito feliz. Acho que largando em 11º, podendo acabar em segundo dessa forma. O único problema na corrida que encontrei foi o equilíbrio do freio, que foi passando para trás e eu perdi o comando dele. E a equipe não tinha mais nada para fazer, então o carro ficou praticamente como um kart para guiar, porque bloqueava mais as rodas traseiras. Mas mesmo assim o carro se comportou muito bem e deu para acabar uma corrida com 8 pontos que valem muito para o campeonato.
Thank you. Fernando?
Ha sido un día difícil para mí, saliendo desde la posición 13 sabía que iba a ser una carrera muy complicada y así ha sido. He tenido un poco de tráfico, pero el coche ha ido muy bien, los neumáticos muy bien también. Y acabar en el podio de esta carrera era un sueño hoy por la mañana cuando me levanté y gracias a Dios lo he conseguido. Hay que seguir trabajando y creo que esta vuelta rápida que he hecho también en carrera me hace muy feliz y espero poder luchar por la victoria la próxima vez.
Thanks, guys.